Donald Trump is having an absolutely awful Tuesday. He still hasn't made a social media post in about 2 days. His last post says that Democrats want to replace you with uneducated Mexicans who are easier to enslave. That was the last social media post made by the President of the United States. But he's waking up, and again, he's seeing that President Zelensky is far more popular in the United States than he is. Zelensky has a plus 12 net approval in the United States, while Donald Trump's net approval is negative 14 and continuing to plummet. And meanwhile, Putin's net approval is negative 73 in the United States. I wonder those people who still support Vladimir Putin in the United States, I wonder if there are some crossovers there with Donald Trump. And evidently, MAGA Mike Johnson is taking a page out of Donald Trump's fraud playbook, and MAGA Mike is doing the email scams that Donald Trump does. MAGA Mike's been posting this all over social media. I wonder what kind of rates he gets for advertising on Twitter, which is now X. I wonder if someone should ask some questions there. MAGA Mike Johnson goes, "Hey, no need for money on this one. Just your opinion. Can you complete my official end of the year survey?" Hey, no money on this one. And then you click it, and guess what it does? It makes you give him money. It demands that you give him money. Now, we've been covering here on the MeidasTouch network how Donald Trump's weakness has led to all of these wars breaking out across the world. Donald Trump taking a page out of the playbook of dystopian 1984 predictions. War is peace, right? Donald Trump wants peace prizes while he's the one creating all of these wars. Well, another massive, massive conflict is breaking out, and it actually involves Saudi Arabia and UAE, both of who Donald Trump is doing personal business deals with. So what just took place very, very recently, yesterday and into this morning, a Saudi-led coalition carried out a targeted strike at Yemen's Mukalla port, accusing foreign-backed vessels, in this case, UAE-backed vessels. They're saying UAE supports a southern separatist group in Yemen, of delivering weapons to southern separatists. Now, Yemen denies now Saudi Arabia is saying this is taking place. UAE is denying this. But this attack on what Riyadh is saying was a UAE-linked weapons shipment is perhaps one of the most significant escalations between Saudi Arabia and UAE to date, widening a rift between these two Gulf monarchies, which are now coming into conflict with each other. Because Donald Trump has destroyed a global world order, and it's not clear where America stands on any side of the issue other than what gifts are you going to give Donald Trump? How are you going to bribe him? You're just seeing this domino effect across the entire world. And it's what we cover here frequently on the MeidasTouch network, that you may not be getting a perspective elsewhere on corporate news. So just make sure you hit subscribe. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers here, and you may think you're subscribed, but you may not actually be subscribed. So just double check that you are subscribed here. Now, Donald Trump is also getting additional humiliation on the home front as more musicians are canceling their Kennedy Center concerts after Donald Trump vandalized the center, changing its name unlawfully by vandalizing it to the Trump Kennedy Center. The latest cancellations involve a group for New Year's, which I'll get into in just a moment. But as Bill Gruskin says, something can be both sad and funny, right? Because the defacement of the Kennedy Center and the financial hit that performers are suffering are very, very sad. But Rick Grinnell is Donald Trump's proxy, who's the one who's in charge of the Kennedy Center now. But Rick Grinnell's temper tantrums are very, very funny. Here's how the Washington Post writes it. Kennedy Center President Richard Grinnell, a Trump appointee, responded to these cancellations with a post on social media on Monday evening saying, "The arts are for everyone and the left is mad about it. The artists who are now canceling shows were booked by the previous far left leadership. Their actions prove that the previous team was more concerned about booking far left political activists rather than artistes willing to perform for everyone, regardless of their political beliefs. Boycotting the arts to show you support the arts is a form of derangement syndrome. That's Rick Grinnell freaking out. Now, no, Rick, changing the name and vandalizing a center is a defacement of the arts, and people just don't want to aid and abet a crime, right? If you are performing in a crime scene, that also may make you a criminal at this point. And so I think there's an easy out of people's contracts because the entire center is operating criminally at this point, and who would want to lend their name to aid and abet a crime? So here's what just took place. And this is in addition to remember, there was a Christmas Eve cancellation that we reported on and a Christmas performance canceling. Now a New Year's and an April performance have been canceled. A veteran jazz ensemble and a New York dance company have canceled events at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, intensifying the fallout after it was renamed. The center had previously promoted 2 New Year's Eve performances by the Cookers as an all-star jazz septet that will ignite the Terrace Theater stage with fire and soul. But those performances, like an annual Christmas Eve jazz concert hosted by Chuck Red, are now canceled. And the Cookers released a statement that said, "Jazz was born from struggle and from a relentless insistence on freedom. Freedom of thought, of expression, and of the full human voice." Also, Doug Verone and Dancers, a New York dance company, also said on Monday that it was canceling 2 performances in April that had been intended to celebrate its 40th anniversary. Mr. Verone, the head of the company, said it would lose $40,000 by pulling out. "It's financially devastating to us, but morally exhilarating to us," he said in an email. I wonder if there's a way. Doug, if you're watching the MeidasTouch Network right now, reach out to us. Maybe there's something that we can do on YouTube on New Year's or do something for you. So reach out, Doug, if you can. Maybe we could think of something creative together. Now, Donald Trump's sycophants are all over their state regime media this morning, trying to make excuses for Donald Trump's disastrous economy, for Donald Trump's disasters that he's causing throughout the world. And the American people feel it. The American people are in pain. When Donald Trump says we're in a golden age, nobody buys what this con artist is selling. We know he's covering up child sex trafficking rings and all these distractions are taking place. And he's forcing the American people to suffer too. He said he would end the war in Ukraine on day 1. He said prices would drop on day 1. He is a con artist, a phony, but he's a lifelong felon. He's a fraud. He's a sexual abuser. He's a bad guy. He's evil. He's evil. And it's an evil regime. So Trump's evil regime propagandist like Ron Johnson, a MAGA Republican senator from Wisconsin, is asked by Newsmax, when will Americans start to feel economic progress? And MAGA Mike Johnson goes, maybe in the future. I don't know. This is all Biden's fault. Biden. Biden left us an enormous mess. Here, play this clip.
The problem is that Democrats, Biden left so many enormous messes. The open borders, the war, the hangover from 40-year high inflation, which devalued our dollar from the dollar held in 2019 is only worth 80 cents. That doesn't go away. That's permanent devaluation. So it takes time to turn the situation around so people can feel it. People's real wages are increasing. But the good news is President Trump is focused on this. He comes from the private sector. Everything he's doing it's the right thing. Reduce regulation, reduce taxation. How quickly that kicks in where people really feel it, I really can't predict that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, bud, you're 1 year in. I mean, y'all made the promises that you would fix this. First off, he didn't hand you a mess. Biden left you an economy that all economists were saying was the envy of the world. If you had just put the economy on autopilot, things would be good. So let's just fact check you right there. But you're a year in. You're a year in and you're whining and saying, oh, nothing we can do. Just a bunch of babies, in my opinion. Then you have MAGA Republican Congresswoman Sherry Biggs on healthcare, and she's asked on Newsmax. Again, these interviews have been on real right wing. I mean, this is right wing regime media, and she's asked, so, are Americans going to be? What are Americans going to do? The Affordable Care Act subsidies are going to expire in 48 hours. Do Republicans have a plan? Because you've blocked all of the efforts by the Democrats to extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies. So do you all have a plan? And watch what she says.
But Congresswoman, do you foresee Congress maybe even stepping in before tomorrow's midnight deadline by any chance?
we have been working really hard to make sure that we've got a good plan. And I think you're going to see a change for sure. And the Americans are going to be happy with the outcome. President Trump is trying to make healthcare affordable and make sure that the citizens come first, not the big healthcare insurance companies, not putting insurance ahead of our individuals, and making sure that our citizens have the care that they need, whether it's rural health care, which is important in districts like mine, but to mothers, to children, to everybody across the board, not just a small subset.
I mean, just why is it constant fraud from these people, right? Just level with the people. You don't have a plan. You're not going to come up with a plan. You hate Obamacare because his name is on it. And if you don't like it, come up with a better plan. But until you have a better plan, keep the plan that keeps lots of people, tens of millions of Americans on healthcare. And you go through a story. Overall, Obamacare is popular. It is. Now, is it too expensive? Does it have problems? Yes. And are there complaints about it and serious complaints about it? Absolutely. Everybody knows who watched this show that I support Medicare for all. I support a single payer system. That's what I would like to actually see. I think you tax the rich a little bit more. I think you first off start by taxing them their fair share, and then tax them a little bit more. And then I don't think we need to be spending all this $1 trillion on the military. I think that money can be going to keeping people alive and getting good healthcare. That's just my view. We can debate it, but isn't that what we should be doing? We should be having actual debates before the American people and making sure they get the best care and the best treatment, and not gaslighting and lying like these MAGA Republicans do. I'm okay if you disagree with me. Obamacare tried to reach a compromise and a solution, and that's why it's imperfect, because Republicans were trying to stop any other system that could exist. So let's just have honest, real conversations with the American people. That's all I want to see. Going back to state regime media here. Here's Fox. They go and ask the NATO ambassador, Matthew Whitaker, do you think Putin is being honest about his desire to end the war in Ukraine? And he goes, well, I think both sides here want to try to end it. Both sides. We're 95% there. Just make up percentages. We're 95% of the way there. Here, play this clip right here.
Let's pick it up where Zelensky says he just doesn't trust Putin. No big surprise there. Do you think Putin is being honest about his desire to end the war with Ukraine?
I think there is a desire to end the war on both sides. I think it's just what the terms could be. We have become increasingly aware of, the differences between the two sides. We're hearing 95% of the way there on the negotiations of a peace deal. That's fantastic. And, the only person that could bring both sides to the table, and most importantly, keep both sides at the table, is President Trump. And so we are going to push through, see if there's a peace deal to be had. But it's pretty clear, as the president said over the weekend, it either is going to get done as part of this process we're in the middle of right now, or it's going to go on much longer. Let's all hope that we can get a peace deal here in the new year.
And then one of the other distractions, but it's a serious issue, but one of the things that Republicans want to do to try to make you look away from their own fraud is to blame every Somali. Say the Somalians are the ones who are bad. Somalians engage in fraud. Let's go after Somalians. Here's MAGA Republican Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin saying just that. Here, play this clip.
But this is just the tip of the iceberg. When I say that, remember, Somalis have only been here a few years.
Yeah.
They're literally amateurs in terms of exploiting our vast welfare system. And we've created program after program after program, layered them on top of each other.
Now, I think it's important that we point out that Trump has pardoned 35 plus criminals who were convicted of committing over $1.7 billion in fraud. As this one account, Cam Callout, says, as a moderate, I care about all fraud. But if you're a conservative who only cares about the $8 million daycare scheme in Minnesota, yet you turn a blind eye to Trump's fraud pardons, your outrage is simply political performance. And Amy Bach is a white woman, former executive of Feeding Our Future, the ringleader of the fraud in Minnesota. She's not Somali. The Biden DOJ was the one who went after the criminal ring. But look at this guy. Philip S. Formes, assisted living company kingpin, defrauded Medicare over $1.3 billion, convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Donald Trump commuted his sentence in 2020. How about MAGA Republican Senator Rick Scott? His company, Columbia HCA, defrauded Medicare and was fined $2 billion. Scott invoked the Fifth Amendment 75 times to avoid prison, and he received a $300 million retirement, which he used to buy a Florida governorship and Senate seat. He's doubled his net worth since then. As this account Maine explains, Biden DOJ was the one that filed and charged against certain members. You can't say it's all Somalians. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say. The individuals who happen to be of Somali descent, who were involved in a feeding our future fraud scheme, the Biden DOJ charged them. 78 indicted, 57 convicted, 7 in prison. The rest are awaiting sentencing right now. And I think we do need to take this very, very seriously. Absolutely. But notice what the MAGA Republicans are doing to try to, this is going to be part of their play for the midterms. And then finally, one of the things I want to point out as well is, remember Lauren Chan, the disgraced right-wing media personality, the founder of what was called Tenet Media, which provided a platform to several right-wing commentators, including Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin, which was exposed by the FBI in 2024 for taking millions in funding from the Russian state-owned news agency RT, resulting in Chen having her work visa revoked and being forced to return to her home country of Canada. Well, she was allowed to re-enter the United States this month with the assistance of officials in the Trump regime, specifically Joe Rittenhouse, a senior advisor on consular affairs with the State Department, who Chen thanked publicly on Instagram and X. As Chris Murphy, Democratic senator, says, so amidst Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, his State Department worked feverishly to bring back to the United States, a couple who were kicked out for running an illegal Russian propaganda effort inside the U.S. Putin is in charge of Trump. Putin is running the show in the United States. We get this, right? There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.